So it's day one of starting to just be full-time working on the boat, and I'm really excited. And there's a pretty long list, but I'm gonna definitely prioritize the stuff that maybe is not as fun. But there's one fun one I get to do I'm gonna start with, and it's installing this new AAS radio to replace my old radio that doesn't even have direct calling. And so I'm really excited about that. Let's do it. So the old radio is also a standard Horizon, but it's a bit smaller, so I'm gonna have to do some cutting. Here it is. It's a old school thing. Works perfectly fine, but doesn't have the distress button, which is really great to have, obviously. So the electrical panel on Sea Dream of Clyde is really sweet. Just a couple knobs up here to undo to be able to expose everything, as well as the radio here. Just these three easy to do knobs. And there it comes. Just like that. Everything's all very tidily labeled. There's the main panel. Some of them are older, some of them are newer. And here's the back of the radio here. And yeah, pretty easy to install. It actually has some of the exact same cables as the new radio I'm just got, so that's really nice to see. Just to be able to plug and play somewhat. So I got the old one out, super easy. Just slid on out. There's these little mounts here, but unfortunately they're a different size than this radio. And this one didn't come with these, so I'm gonna have to track something down or just fashion something. Should be pretty easy. And then of course the hole is a bit smaller, so I'm gonna measure this up, and I'm just gonna have to widen this a bit here and be able to slot it on in and find some mounts, and it's done. This is the same fitting that was on this radio, and I was able to plug it straight in, plug the mic in or the antenna in, and it worked just fine. So I got the new measurements cut out here, or laid out here. I'm just trying to center a little bit. This way the old one was kind of centered a little bit off center, so I'm just making it slightly further this way. And I got this handy tool here, a little oscillating multi-tool. And so it works real good. All right. Really handy for little cuts like this. Okay, we'll see if that cut worked. Took a little bit of fine trimming, but slides right on in now. That looks pretty slick. I didn't have the little mount. I'm just going to use a couple bits of wood, and that's should work to keep it flush. I'll show you what that's like. Just going to drill a couple holes in them, measure them out with a piece of paper, and it should be good to go. Got my little blocks made up here, and they're fitting in just fine. Okay, let's see what it looks like here. Looks pretty good. Yeah. All right, that's done, and that was just a couple cables to plug in here, and it's ready to rock. Because it was the same company, it slides right on in. Boom, done. And then grab the antenna cable and slide it on in. And these extra cables, I believe, are for like connecting to other devices, which I won't be doing just now, but I think there's I may be able to do that later once I buy some different ones. So there we go, that's done. Okay, I got that radio all installed, and I'll be moving on to the next task now. Okay, next thing to do is the oil change. It's a little bit overdue. I should have done it earlier this spring, but I only put on about 20 hours since then, so I'm not too concerned. I've gone and warmed up the engine to make the oil thinner, and it makes it so you can pump it out of the oil pan a lot easier. And there is a little pump in the back of my engine where I can just pump it straight into one of the old jugs, and then I'll go clean the filter and then reinstall it, add the oil, and that's about it. And make sure I'm cleaning up as I go along. So here we go. Okay, so you just grab a bit of diesel here to wash the filter. It's also a 13 mil. That's it. It pops off as well. Just give it a bath. See all the gunk coming out. So I don't actually have a replacement filter. I don't have a spare to this washable filter, so I'm going to order one. Because if something happened to this one, I'd be hooped. You can see it's running kind of fairly clean through there now, so I'm satisfied that that's cleaned. I'll drip off there. And just clean off the other little components as well. There's the nut. What is that? So we'll dispose of this old diesel and then let all this stuff dry off. And then with a new paper gasket right here that goes on back on here, I will put this back on the engine and then add the oil, and then it's all done. Run the engine, make sure everything's happy, and that's it. While I'm at it, I'm also cleaning the air filter. He's cleaning diesel also. You can see all the muck coming out of it. There's also another thing I'm planning on finding a replacement for too, so I have a spare. So the lovely Dodger that the previous owner built on Sea Dream of Clyde unfortunately developed a small crack along the front of it, and as such a bit of water has gotten in and started to rot it. Only in a small section though. However, I do need to remove the whole thing and probably take it off the boat is going to be the best way to do the repair so I don't make a mess on deck. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing that now. And yeah, it looks like there's actually not backing nuts, and the bolts just go into the fiberglass and are securely in place like that, so it shouldn't be too difficult to do. So you can see here and listen that it's not rotten here, but you can hear how it gets all dull sounding. You can see the crack down here. It was pretty easy to get all those bolts off, so now I'm gonna go ahead and start trying to get this whole Dodger disconnected. There's a bunch of sealant that'll kind of be keeping it in place at the moment, but I'll be able to peel it away. I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect the solar panels. You're meant to cover them up before you do so. Here's the little tool to help undo it. Smack away the sealant here. So I have the Dodger on land now, in a lovely place where Caitlin and I are house sitting, and now it's time to start cleaning it up and investigate the extent of the delamination and a bit of rot that has occurred. But there is a little more delamination than I expected that I think is going to be pretty easily fixed by injecting epoxy. So let's have a look around. So the most obvious spot that I'd found originally is right on the front of the Dodger here, and you can see clearly that there was a crack had formed. This is little bits that I had opened up, but it turns out there's just a very thin wee bit of wood in here that's definitely rotted out. There's no doubt about that, but it's only a little tiny bit, and then the backing here is still totally solid. It's epoxy. I think what I'm actually going to do is just take out as much of the wood as I can and then just inject epoxy. I'm also going to add fiberglass along here to prevent a crack from occurring again. It's also extended a little bit up along here. You can hear where it's dull, sharp, no delamination or rot right there, but definitely right there it has. And this part's a little more complex because it's curved, but I think again it's such a thin amount of wood that's actually in there that I can just drill some little holes along here, inject epoxy, or maybe open up a little bit here and inject the epoxy, and then it's going to make it totally firm again. In terms of the rest of the Dodger, here it's all bright and good all over. However, there is a little bit right there. I'm not sure that there's actually any rot, so I think that I will just drill some holes, inject epoxy, and clamp it, and that should be just fine to strengthen it again. And along here, where there's the through bolts, it's all good except for one spot right there, and it's definitely can feel it's quite punky, so that's a place where I'm gonna probably either maybe cut it out and add a new piece of wood, or just inject epoxy again. So I think it's just going to be injecting epoxy. It's going to be the name of the game here to keep this simple and also make it fully strengthened. It'll be a little bit heavier than wood, but that's fine. It's going to be a minuscule amount. And yeah, so that's what I'm going to be up to here. Yeah, I'm stoked. This is going to be a lot easier than I expected it was going to be. All right, getting back to work on the Dodger here. Yeah, so it turns out the wood in the part I was worried about here was actually just a little tiny thin membrane, really. And I think what the previous owner, Byrne, had done was just used it to form the epoxy and a bit of fiberglass around. It seems that he didn't wrap fiberglass around here, and that's, I think, what allowed this crack, because there wasn't just enough structure with the movement. So that's what I will be adding. But in the meantime, I was able to scrape out the bits of wood, and I'm going to be able to just inject epoxy straight in here. He's actually built it up really strong on the right here, and then there's just this thin piece right here, and there was just a little bit thin wood, if you can see in there. I was able to scrape out. So I'm going to be able to just pour epoxy in there, seal it back up. There's a couple spots here where it didn't just crack right open, so I'm going to use my oscillating tool to just open it up a little bit and scrape out that old stuff, because it is a bit punky right here as well. So you can see here, open it up here, there's this rusty, or this old rotten stuff in here, but just a little bit. There's still a little damp in there. So I'm gonna have to wait to glue this one. Okay, so I got it cut all the way around here, and quite a bit of rod actually came out of here, but again, I'm gonna be able to just pile in epoxy, so it's all good. But it looks like there was a crack here, so I'm gonna cut into here as well and just see if there's rot to come out. I think there will be. Okay, so using the oscillating tool, I've got a ton of the rot out. You can see here, there's quite a bit. There's some stuff I'm going to suck out. But on this part here, so what he looks like he did is just a real thin piece of plywood and another one and epoxied on either side. And the interior one is not been penetrated by water, so it's fine. So I was able to just bore out the one layer. So definitely on this section, I'm just going to fill it with epoxy and clamp it down. And this section, I'm just debating right now on whether or not I'm going to put in wood as well as epoxy. Yeah, I'm not sure yet. I'll talk to some people and see what people's opinions are on that. But it's coming along. Kind of scared to pop this part open, but it's clearly punky. So here goes. A little worse than I thought here. Alright, so this section ended up being a little more extensive than I thought. It just felt hollow up here, but the rot carried on. But I got down to where there was no rot right here. It's good. So I will just have to get a chunk of wood here and epoxy and do a lot of good stuff right there. I'm also going to bore out each one of the bolt holes here. So I'll bore them out larger and fill it with epoxy, let that cure, then re-drill them so that there's no chance of water getting into the wood core again. Yeah, overall it did pretty good over the years. I'm not sure how old this thing is, but I feel like over 10 years or something, so yeah, not bad at all. Another part of the Dodger project I'm doing is going to be replacing these plexiglass windows that are very foggy now, and so I'm going to go ahead and take those off now. Alright, so I got one of the plexiglass off now, It was really sealed on there super well. It took a lot of force just to get off, so the bolts were kind of just chilling. Hey, Caitlin.
Well, hello, Trevor, and all that may be watching. I'm just about to use this spray adhesive, heavy duty, to spray together 2 pieces of foam because I am making nice cushions for our bridge deck so that I can lounge and we can potentially sleep on the bridge deck in between shifts of being at the helm.
Sweet.
Yeah. Step 1, I've already taken some measurements to make 3 different sections so that we can have starboard and port side, and then they'll also be able to like drop down into the cockpit for seats, and then we can just have those 2 seats and cushions and be able to keep our walkway open too.
Cool.
Should go to your side. It should be flush on your side.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
Here, you want to push on that side and I'll push on this side. Okay, look at this way. Come on, let's cuddle.
How long does it say it needs to set?
3 minutes.
No. Nice.
I mean, that's deep though.
So apparently an X-Acto knife works quite well for foam.
Yeah, I think anything more than 3" though, and it would be
Get difficult.
it might get a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I think there's these wire hot knives that folks use, professional type.
16 plus 4 is 20, eh?
I think so. That checks out. So we're back in the garage here after a few days in the mountains. We had to climb Mount Baker, and we're getting back on sewing these cushions. Kat is the lead, measuring stuff up, making sure we measure it like 5 times and cut it twice. Or no, once. We're gonna put this blue umbrella that has a sort of vinyl coating on the inside and then the bottom of the cushion. This is like half the price almost, and then this fabric is going to be on the upside of the cushion where it's actually visible. So this will just be on the bottom, and though it looks fine, this other fabric will look nicer. So I'm just putting these little cuts in this piece of wood so that it bends easier to get around the bit of the curve that I'm having the Dodger here. Okay, I got it moved into the shade where it's not going to be so warm as I apply the epoxy. Epoxy doesn't like to be applied when it's hot. So I'm right on the upper end of what the product says, 70 degrees. It's 70 degrees out right now. But I'll go ahead and send it in. Got this tape here to help prevent it from dribbling down and so that it makes a nice little cap. So I might have to do a few applications, but we'll see how it goes. So the Dodger work has been a little slow because it's been taking multiple glue times or multiple glue pours. It's this really liquid glue that I pour in, and it percolates into the new wood that I installed in there and make sure that everything's filled up. So I got to do one more pour, I think, and then I'm going to be able to do fiberglass or marine tex. I'm just debating which one to do. Yeah, but it's looking good so far. It's quite a slow curing glue, but it makes sure it percolates into all the little void spaces. So it takes like at least 4 days or something to be completely hard, and I think another few more days beyond that until it's actually fully cured. So I won't start sanding, or at least I won't paint it for at least a week after the final gluing, but should be able to get most of the Dodger ready to rock, and then just a quick painting, a couple coats, and then it'll be done. Alright, I got a bunch more gluing done here, and as I was pouring it down this bit, it just kept going and going and going and disappearing. So I think what has happened, I think it was interconnected with this area down here of delamination, and it's just flowing into there. So I've added all these clamps so that it's holding the two different layers together. There's like obviously a bit of dry rot in there, and so I'm going to pour more glue in there. Hopefully it's just going to fill back up to here, and that's going to be done. I thought I was going to have to drill a bunch of little holes in there to fill that spot in, so that's great. Nice little surprise. Tell me what you're up to.
Sure. Yeah, so I just cut out all the material needed for the cushion, and now I'm gonna take some time to pin it together and get it right before I start sewing.
Sweet.
It is starting to resemble a nice looking cushion.
Sweet.
Really tight to help keep the foam in place and not move around. I'll have to go back through and do little more touch-ups, but not too shabby.
Coming up next time on Sailing Sea Dream of Clyde, we finish painting the Dodger and then reinstall it on the boat. I do some varnishing and make new brackets for the solar panels. Having run out of thread for sail repair while we were still house sitting, we ended up doing some sail repair up on a dock, and then we head off to Canada to go do our haul out in Nanaimo. Thanks so much for watching, and if you haven't done so yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button and leave some comments too. I always enjoy reading them. Bye for now.